Being a personal finance reporter right now is something like being a preacher, a minister, a rabbi. Often, if you ask these people what they like most about their jobs, or they'll tell you they actually like funerals. It's easier, it's a more rewarding experience to help people when times are really tough than, say, at a marriage when everyone's happy and nobody really needs much reassurance. And being a personal finance reporter is sort of like that right now. You know, there's been a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, and there's a lot of opportunity to help. Really, there's never been a better time to be a personal finance journalist, and it's for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's an acute need. You know, we can see it out there among readers. You know, we often talk in journalism about comforting the afflicted and afflicting the comfortable. You know, in terms of you know, who's afflicted right now? Well, when you think about people's finances, about people's portfolios, we're all afflicted. So there's a real need to kind of push it out. And then there's demand. I mean, readers really want to pull it in. Readers value it. You know, I can see it in the feedback I get, and we can see it in, you know, the amount of people that are reading the stories on the New York Times websites and traffic numbers elsewhere. And you know, one of the things we're trying harder to think about is, you know, what do readers really value? What will readers pay for? As we try to imagine a future for ourselves in journalism, online or off, reader demand actually makes a difference, and readers really crave this material right now. So the fact that the Institute supports it is a great thing. And you know, we also think some about advertisers when we think about why it's never been a better time to be a personal finance journalist. You know, that used to be sacrilege for, you know, reporters or editors to get up and talk about, you know, well, what are advertisers actually willing to pay for? But you know, I think that we can't necessarily ignore those sorts of things anymore. It doesn't mean we pull punches or we only write happy stories. But the fact is that there are a lot of financial services advertisers out there still, you know, who would like to reach readers, and you know, they are looking to support thorough, objective, fair journalism. And so, you know, it may be that the personal finance pages, the business pages, may be among the last standing. So it's another reason it's a good time to be a personal finance journalist right now. But it's also, you know, thinking about personal finance, you know, it falls into a category of journalism that's often been referred to sort of, you know, not so nicely as service journalism. You know, when I was growing up in journalism and got into the business in the sort of early to mid-90s, the service journalism, journalism that was of use, that had utility, it was something that was sort of looked down upon. It was something that was kind of, you know, left to the women's pages, as people sort of derogatorily put it. You know, almost as if it was in you know, the same category as sort of writing about food or something like that. But that's actually, you know, changed a lot in the last couple of years. And, you know, my story is sort of as illustrative of it as any. I mean, I got my start at Fortune magazine, and this was sort of in the mid-1990s, you know, sort of a booming time economically. And all Fortune was really interested in was putting, you know, male CEOs on the cover of the magazine with these intense close-ups where you could see their pores and their 5 o'clock shadows. You probably remember some of those sort of glory shots, and you know, they were these you know, these stories that you know, emphasized personality over service. And that wasn't really for me, but that was the way sort of Fortune was doing things. And so I eventually ended up at Fast Company, a magazine that was all about the reader, and decided that I really wanted to make my career in service journalism. And so when the Wall Street Journal started their personal journal section in 2002, I sort of clawed and scraped my way into that institution because I really wanted to make my living in service to the reader. You know, I was saddened a week or two ago when I saw that Fortune magazine was about to cut back their frequency. They're going from coming out every 2 weeks to basically coming out every 3 weeks. But I was heartened at least to notice that you know, one of the things that they're going to be doing is fewer of these personality stories and more stories that are of service, helping people in their careers and helping people manage their businesses and helping people think about you know, investing in other personal finance stories. So you know, the world is coming around to the idea that, you know, journalists should be of service, and that stories can have takeaways without you know, being embarrassing, that there's no shame in actually trying to help someone directly. The other thing that's happened that I think is interesting and useful for us all to think about is that the whole definition of personal finance has expanded a lot. Jonathan Clements, who was sort of the lead personal finance reporter at the Wall Street Journal when I was there, often said that personal finance columnists write the same 10 columns kind of over and over again, that there are no new stories in personal finance. But I think that's changed. I mean, especially if you expand the definition of what personal finance is. It's way beyond investing. I mean, investing in some ways is the simplest part. Issues of family and money and relationships. I mean, I write about these things a lot, and I find them sort of endlessly fascinating. And there are all sorts of new, areas to mine. I mean, pretty much anything that hits you in the wallet is fair game as far as I'm concerned. We've also seen an incredible level of change in personal finance. I mean, just the sheer expansion of the number of options, the number of choices. I mean, if you look at the number of mutual funds or exchange-traded funds, or you look at the number of banks that are available to people now due to the internet. I mean, it's just been an explosion of choices, and an explosion of bad choices, an explosion of pitfalls. I mean, we're going to talk some about mortgages later. We were talking about them earlier. A lot of people made some really bad choices the last couple of years, and it wasn't entirely their fault, but it just goes to show how much more work there is for people in the world of personal finance to do to help people understand why some of these choices are not such good ones.